Okay, so this is the first video for statistics, and we're going to start off with introduction to statistics, populations, and samples. All right, I'm going to break this down into multiple videos based on the italic headings that I've got here. So let's start with this one. The blank of a study is the group the collected data is intended to describe. It's the entire group of objects or individuals of interest in a statistical study. So if you were in class, you would have seen me draw a great big circle population to represent the population. So the population is the group that you're wanting to collect data on, so that we can infer that it's the information for an entire population that you're trying to study. All right. Example 1, a poll is conducted to determine whether people intend to vote for or against an upcoming proposition in Maricopa County. So what is the population? What are they trying to, who are they trying to study? And so they're trying to study the population of all of the what? Well, if they're conducting a poll and it has to do with people voting, then the people have to be registered voters. They're not going to be able to poll all registered voters, because that's what voting is supposedly does. But it's all registered voters of Maricopa County. So all registered voters of Maricopa County is the population. I'm not an English professor. I'm writing people. Is the population. Okay, that's who they're trying to gain the information on. All right. Let's shift this up where you can still see that one. Oh, you can always pause and rewind. Sorry, forgot about that. A newspaper website contains a poll asking people their opinion on a recent news article. What is the population? So, newspaper website contains a poll asking people their opinion on a recent news article. Why don't you pause the video and see if you can figure out what the population is on this one, and then come back and I'll tell you. So it has to be people who have read the newspaper website, not even the newspaper, it has to be on the website. And so the intended population is probably going to be everybody, but not everyone reads their website. The actual population for this is the survey. It's the readers who, the readers of the website. So the population is the readers of the website. They're assuming that the greater population, everybody, is going to have the same views as their population of their readers. Not all populations are chosen correctly. All right. So in class, I drew you a great big, I'm going to do it again here as well. I'm going to draw a great big circle. It could be a square, it doesn't matter. I like circles. And we're going to assume that it contains our population. Okay, this is going to help us move forward. If you were able to survey all of the things or people in that population and gather data on every single thing or person in that population, then you could take that number, if there's numerical values, and adjust them to average them, find the percentage, etc. And that value you get from the data that you collected from the entire population is called a parameter. Okay. The way I learned this, as far as remembering, because you're going to learn a different one here in a minute, is population starts with a P and parameter starts with a P. That's how I kept the two things we're going to be discussing separate. A survey, if so, say you can actually gain data from everything or person in your population. If you can do that, then that's called a census. And we only have a couple of census off the top of my head that I can think about. One is every 10 years, the United States asks everyone who lives in a house to fill out a census to say how many people live in that house. The other one is voters, but that's only going to be dealing with voter registration as to whether they voted or not. All right. So we have a population, the great big information. And if we gain data from all of the population, that's going to give us a parameter. But a smaller subset of the entire population, one that is fairly representative of the whole population, is called a sample. So it's just a subset of the population is a sample. Okay. Now, so say you pull, say our population is made up of people. All of JCC, let's just keep this throughout. So if our population is all of JCC, you gave JCC data on yourself when you applied, registered, and all that fun stuff. They can take that data and find a parameter because they have data on everyone. But let's just say they chose a sample. So let's just say everyone who's taking a math class this semester, and that's going to be their sample. And they gather data just on those specific people. Maybe it's something they don't have in your registry. And the information they gain from everyone in the math classes, that value, you can find the average, the percentage, etc., using that data, and that's called a statistic. So earlier when I said population parameter, both starting with a P, now we've got sample, which has a statistic, both starting with an S, okay? So let's go to example 3. A researcher wanted to know how citizens of Tacoma felt about a voter initiative. To study this, she goes to the Tacoma Mall and randomly selects 500 shoppers and asks them their opinion. 60% indicate they are supportive of the initiative. What is the sample and the population? Now, sometimes it's easier to find the sample than it is the population. Especially if that sample is not necessarily representative. But let's think about this. All right, so the sample, I'm going to answer that first. The sample is the 500 people, 500 shoppers. All right. The population is who? Or yeah, it has to be who, because she pulled people. So it's less clear. The intended population is to survey Tacoma citizens, the mall shoppers. So there's no reason to assume that the 500 questioned would be representative of all Tacoma citizens. One, think about it this way. If you've been to the Galleria Mall, if we're doing an initiative, we're trying to get the same study, but done on Buffalo, because let's put it in perspective of us. And you have a researcher who goes to the Galleria Mall and pulls 500 shoppers who are willing to give their opinion. The population they're wanting it to be represented by is the registered voters or the citizens of Buffalo. But that's not necessarily what she's going to get. I mean, we have a lot of Canadians that shop there. We have people who are not from the Buffalo area who shop there. So it wouldn't be necessarily a good representation of the population. But the population here is truly all Tacoma citizens. Population is all Tacoma citizens. Okay. All right. Is the 60% value a parameter or a statistic? Hold on. So is the 60% value a parameter or a statistic? I better answer this before my dog starts barking again. The value is coming from where? Well, it's coming from the 500 shoppers. And that 500 shoppers is our sample. So therefore, the 60% value is a statistic. The 60% value is a statistic. Okay, because it comes from the sample. Because it comes from the sample. All right. And that's it for this one. I will get you back on the next one.